It's exciting. All right, should we just jump right in?
Let's jump.
All right, everyone. Hello. Welcome to Keith and Ashley Talk Art and Science. We're excited to be here today. So the last time we did this, I got to chat a lot about something that was really near and dear to my heart. And Keith and I today wanted to address something that he is very special to him in his practice. So we've titled this session Beyond Fairy Tales, Crafting Your Hopefully Ever After. And why did we choose this? Really, we wanted to talk about hope today. I'm going to open the floor up to Keith here to really talk to open up for this. But it's something that we've been talking about, how we're fed this idea of once you meet the person or the one, it's just going to end up happily ever after. And as soon as you hit that stage, which all marriages do, kind of the disillusionment stage where you realize it's not all fairy tales, and it's easy to hit this phase of this thinking of despair. This isn't the person for me. This wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Maybe I'm in the wrong relationship, and feel like you're stuck. So we wanted to talk about the difference between wishing and hoping. Wishing is something you have no control over, and hoping is something that's completely different, which maybe a lot of you didn't even know that wishing and hoping are different. They seem so similar. So Keith, tell us a bit about that. What's the difference between the two?
Thanks. Yeah, they really are similar. And we use those words interchangeably, but by doing so, they lose some of the power in our lives. Like we might end this broadcast and I'll say, okay, Ashley, see you next week. Hope you have a great week. That's not really hope. That's wishing, because I have no control over how your week goes. You have control over how your week goes. The weather can have control over how your week goes. Your children can, your husband can, all those things can. So really, I'm wishing that you have a great week. I'm not hoping. Now, I can hope that I have a great week. So when we titled this, Hopefully Ever After, it's not, oh, I hope our marriage makes it. It's the work of having a happily ever after requires continually hoping about that. So we need to be mindful of our words, because every word we speak is first a thought in our head. And before it's a thought in our head, it's a neurochemical in our brain that actually changes our neurochemistry and our physiology. And so we are influencing ourselves by the words we use. So I guess my first challenge to our audience today is to be mindful of your words and choose wishing when you don't have control and hoping when it is within your control. My definition of hope that I use is hope is the belief that the future will be better than today, and you have the power to make it so. The power to make it so. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm just a huge believer in hope, and I know you are too.
Yeah.
It's just we have hope for everybody in every situation. And even saying that, I know there's people watching who are going to be like, not mine. And that's really the person we're talking to today, because there is hope. That'll be my soapbox. And it'll be the thing I die on, is that there's hope in every situation. You may need help if you don't have the hope. And that's where a good coach comes in. And we'll talk about the role they can play today as we get into this topic more.
I love that. It's so true. And the same thing. I believe the same thing. I do believe that because we believe so much in hope and we want to spread that word, it's part of the reason why we do what we do. We've chosen this career path to help people find that, because we see so many marriages that end in divorce. Now some really do. People do need to be divorced. People have made bad decisions or have treated each other poorly. And obviously that's always an option. But there are a lot of marriages that really could be saved. And this idea of hope is kind of that beginning stage. If they lose the hope, they're on that slippery path downward. That negative override of, oh, he's not what I thought he was. Oh, he's not going to be there for me. Or she's this totally different person. It's never going to work. It's time for us to end it. When in reality, if we can just change our thought around that, it's so powerful.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like you said, that spiral, we can see how the hopelessness and the despair comes in. and where it leads our actions and our behaviors, and we start distancing ourselves, we stop
Yes.
talking, we stop investing in the relationship. Like the hopelessness, really, we see the results of it in relationship. And people tend not to believe that hope can create as many positive responses and actions and growth in a relationship, but it really can. And I think that's because they're kind of stuck back on the wishing, and they wish it would change, but they're just kind of sitting back and
Hmm.
wanting it. If I wish it, if I really want it to be better, it will be. And it's just not the case. It takes some work, and people have to understand what hope really is.
I love that. So, if someone finds themselves in this state of despair,
Yeah.
what would those thoughts sound like? What are some more specific feelings that they may be
Mm.
dealing with to kind of, oh, this is where I am right now. I'm
Yeah.
lacking hope.
And despair, we can hit pretty quickly because it's one of the emotions that we're hardwired for, which means we don't really even have to think about it. It can just hit us right away in a situation. And so despair is that feeling that says, I can't do it with the resources I have. With what I have in front of me, I can't do it. If I went out and got in my car and I was heading on a trip to another state and I looked at my gas tank and it was an eighth full, despair sets in. I don't have the resources to get to where I want to go. And so that's what it is. And in hoping again, we're seeing that, oh, we do have resources. We do have things available to us. Maybe they're not readily available, but we can find a way to get these resources and we can change. So that's really what despair says is I can't do it with the resources I have. I have a spouse that will never change. So
Mhm.
we can't, you know, progress and have this happily ever after and stuff. And this again is where a coach comes in and can help you listen to yourself and these limiting beliefs that you have that immediately make you a victim of
Yeah.
your circumstances. And hope removes the whole victim mindset and mentality that's out there.
That's so true and so powerful. Something they need to hear. So maybe a couple is listening to us today, one of the partners, and they're thinking, I just have no choice. I'm giving up. I feel like that's a big one. I'm just giving up. There's nothing else I can do. But maybe it can internally start by changing that dialogue. Because
Yeah.
if you've got your identity that's wrapped up in what you can't do, your brain's going to reinforce that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. If it's a illustration a lot of times coaches use of putting the oxygen mask on yourself first, on
Yeah.
an airplane, take care of yourself. So even in those situations where there's nothing I can do, like you imagine being in a plane and it's going down, oh, there's nothing I can do. Wrong, there is. Get the oxygen mask and put it on. Take care of yourself. But when we're in adversity and in crisis and things, we don't problem solve well at all. The brain that is upset is not a good brain for finding solutions to its problems. And this is where the role of community really comes in, whether it is a coach, a close family member, a close friend who truly knows how to support you, knows how to cultivate hope in you.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important, because your brain, I heard it earlier this week, an upset brain cannot calm itself.
Yes, that right. The nervous system.
Yep.
We've got to be able to regulate that.
Yeah. And some of that comes through connecting with another person.
Hmm.
I remember seeing a video. Is it on your Instagram page of you co-regulating with your husband,
Yes. Uh-huh.
doing a dance? So an upset brain cannot calm itself. What is an easy tip you have from your dance background for what a person can do involving another person to help them?
Right. And I love this because it's kind of that first stage. Before you find hope, you've got to calm yourself down and get out of that state. In my practice specifically, I love to use movement and physical touch as a way to help hijack our hormones and the chemical reactions that are going on in our bodies, because it has nothing to do with what we're believing in our brain at the moment, and all everything to do with what's actually happening inside of our bodies. So one thing I like to tell people is just do a 30-second hug or 30-second sway. It's one of the reasons I think ballroom dancing, partner dancing with couples is so powerful, because you can bypass all those problems that have been swirling around in your head, whether it's something internal you're dealing with and your emotional system is dysregulated, or within your marriage, just reaching out and touching and being able to calm those things. So, I mean, that's a whole deep dive, but just reach out and touch the person, or or look at them, be really
Mhm.
present, listen to what they're saying face to face. I see you. Don't even have to talk, right? You can just be there for them in that moment within their space, and which will help pull you out of that deep state of panic, fight or flight.
Yeah. That's good. When you said do a 30-second sway, my mind jumped right to, you know what? A lot of people do a 30-second swig because it's easy, it's
Right?
easier, right? I don't
Yeah.
like what I'm feeling, and I'm going to
Uh-huh.
go through habitually. My brain's going to push me towards what I typically solves the problem, and they do a 30-second swig. And so next time when you're tempted to do a 30-second swig, switch it to a 30-second sway. And like you said, bypass kind of all the mental work and stuff you have to do, and just
Right.
be close and have that touch. So
Exactly.
that's a great
That's
point.
good. I know. Swap it out for something healthier for your
Yep.
body and your relationship, right? Don't numb it. Don't ignore it. It
Right.
turns into something else, but go through it. Just
Because
let it.
when I talk about motivation in a little bit, motivation is a finite resource. Well, let's get there. Let's go into
Okay.
the three ingredients of hope,
Love it.
and we'll get to that motivation there. Okay. So the first part of hope requires three things. Remember, it's something you have control of. It's not wishful thinking, something you have control of. And
Mhm.
the first ingredient is having a goal. And that is something, that's work, that's something you can come up with. Now, when we're in adversity and in crisis and in stress in our relationship, again, our brains don't do well on their own to come up with goals. What they do, our brains find a goal that is avoidance driven.
Mhm.
I don't want to feel alone. That's a different goal than I want to be connected. That's
Right.
desire driven. And one, we're more successful reaching our goals when they're desire focused
Mhm.
than when they're avoidance. So um, I hear it often. You probably do as well. And in the Facebook group we're in the marriage support group on Facebook, a very active community with over 35,000 members in it, people looking for help. And you and I are experts in that group, and we respond to people's posts. And we see it often where they're presenting their goals, but they're very much avoidance. How do I avoid this? How do I get out of this? That would be desire driven, but we want to have an attainable goal,
Mhm.
and we do better at reaching short-term goals. And a brain that's under stress again looks long-term, and we
Yeah.
have less success there. So have a short-term goal and make it something that you desire, something that you want to have, and start working towards that. So we got to start with a goal. The second thing we have to have is a pathway to the goal. How am I going to get there? And again, that's a problem solving thing. There's going to be hurdles. Our brain is going to give us reasons why we can't do it, why it didn't work last time. Well, the last three times I brought this up with him, it just turned into a fight. Okay.
Exactly.
Are we going to pursue the goal when that comes in? No, not when we're thinking like that. So, okay, it happened three times. It was negative result outcome. It was a fight. We didn't talk to each other for days. What's a path to have this conversation? You know, and again, that's where a coach can come in and help us script and come up with things to say to create a different pathway. And so having a pathway is the second thing. So we need a goal. It's got to be desirable. It's got to be short term. We have to find a path. Here's how I'm going to reach it. And then the third thing is we need motivation, willpower, kind of the same thing there. And understanding that that is a finite resource. Those people who are giving up, I give up. You know, I've done everything. I've tried everything. That is a combination of thinking and victim mentality, but it's also maybe an indication that that finite resource of motivation isn't there any longer. And a couple things really zap take away our motivation. Fears
Mhm.
will do that. And so the fear of, well, last time I tried this, it didn't work. That's a fear.
Mhm.
Okay? And fear is something in the back of our brains, and desire and motivation and love is at the front of our brains. And you can't be two places at one time. So working with a coach or a therapist can help you move from that fearful place to, well, what's a better thought you can have? Because if you're going to think it, you're going to have different chemistry and you're going to have different actions. So removing the fears is one way to regain willpower and motivation to keep going. And another one is nutrition. Poor nutrition makes it difficult to have motivation, and a lot of the American diet. Now, I think, oh boy, I was working with a functional nutritionalist, functional doctor at one point, and they said like Americans are malnutritioned. We don't have the right nutrition. It means there's like 6 or so different types of glucoses that our body runs on, and they're better in quality. And the average processed American diet, processed food, is the poorer form of glucose. And when you're digesting all of that, you're actually whittling away at your motivation and willpower to do those things, and you become lethargic, and you don't have that energy to go after it. So diet is another thing that can be looked at to help you. And there's just some real practical stuff along with getting rid of those fears. So you got to have motivation for it. And sometimes, well, really the fuel for that is being able to imagine a better future than what it is. Remember, the definition I said is hope is a belief that the future will be better than today, and you can do something about that. So we've got to imagine it. Now, again, a brain that's under stress and adversity, in conflict, feeling depressed, will have difficulty picturing it any different. And people say, I just can't see it any different. I just can't see them changing. Again, they're not looking where they need to look, where they have control in themselves. Another point, and I'll let you talk into this one because you were just listening to a video of a person talking about hope, and the brain won't pursue a future when it feels it's hit a wall, right? It limits itself. How does that happen? What's your understanding of that?
Yeah. So I find this so fascinating because I find we talk about this a lot, this whole idea of what's really happening inside of our bodies that creates our reality. And so much of it is in our head and what we're telling ourselves. So if you have found, you feel like you're cornered or up against a wall, I wrote this down, I'm going to read it. Your brain will not pursue a future that feels the same as your present or your past if it feels dangerous. So it's going to do everything it can to protect you from this state that you're in right now, because our bodies want to survive. They are there to keep us alive. So when we are stressed, we have that nervous system dysregulation is happening a lot. All it's saying is we have to get out of here. You need to survive. So it's going to keep reinforcing these thoughts of leave, get out, go. This is not safe for you. Because if your identity is wrapped up in this idea that you can't do anything, it's over, then you're going to naturally, it's going to keep you in that place, right? It's going to keep telling you that story, when in reality, if you can snap out of it and have a different mindset, like, you know what? I know this is crappy. We don't want to be here. We hate the fighting. This feels toxic, but maybe there is an option for us. Maybe there is hope for our relationship. Maybe we can get back to that way we felt about each other in the beginning. Just being able to shift that mindset, your body chemistry changes. Everything about your brain's like, oh, we're going to allow that to happen. You know, I was writing down when I was listening to this video, I wrote down, it's like not seeking a second opinion for a cancer diagnosis. Or something really, really heavy or strong. Think of it, if it was your physical body and someone said, I'm sorry, we're going to have to take that arm. It's got to go. You'd be like, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe I should ask somebody else. I'm not going to just trust this one person that this is it. So your brain's saying, time to cut the arm off, time to get rid of this guy. Maybe you could reach out for a second opinion and start to open up possibilities of rehab or all of those things that we could do for our relationships. But yeah, so that's what I was thinking about.
That really is hope in action, right? Going for that second is you have a picture of a better future. A future with an arm, both arms. So I'm gonna take action on stuff.
Right.
Yeah, hope is like the remedy for that fight or flight response. Fight, flight, fawn. I heard there's actually 6 different responses to that, and hope is the remedy to prevent that. So instead of, when we're in a difficult situation in our relationships, turning it into a fight to push the person away, or flight to exit the situation, we have the ability to stay in it and resolve it and work towards that
Yeah.
better future together. So yeah, that's another place that hope is so important. And this is where a coach can come in, is they can help paint that future, that desired future. When I get working with a couple and I say they're really locked up, I can't seem to move them. They're in this position that, no, this is it. It's over. Things aren't going to change. The only option is, divorce, separation, something like that. Well,
Yeah.
first, that's a sign that the brain's not in a good place, right? You only have one or two options. You always want three. But the way to reach them is by telling them stories. And you've got to have like a repertoire of hope-filled stories of people's lives changing. And when you do that and you paint that picture, their brain, because it really wants that, gravitates towards it and becomes more open to the possibility. And then they can start taking the steps. You're sharing with me a story that would be like a great story to tell someone about hoping, and just related to dance, because you hear it often. And I say I would be one of those guys that if I was ever to work with you would say, there's no hope for me, Ashley. I have two left feet,
Yeah.
three, like just terrible. But you're able to tell people stories of that's not always the case, right? What happened recently for you?
Yeah, I hear this all the time. The two left feet, there's no hope for me. That is a very common theme. But obviously, there's a little bit because they came to see me. They asked me to help them teach them to dance. So recently, I had a client who came in for wedding dance lessons. He was the father of a soon to be bride, and he needed to do the father daughter dance at her wedding. And he was petrified. I've worked with many father daughter dances, one-on-one and together. And this guy was by far the most hopeless as far as his presenting to me. I thought, oh gosh, this is going to be a tough case, because he's like, there really is, this is impossible. I've never danced. I won't dance in public. I know I'm terrible. I wonder if he's been told that in his childhood or something. And he's like, I'm just uncoordinated. This isn't for me, but I have to do this for my daughter. And I feel I owe it to her to at least try to come in and try to get some lessons, because I'm really scared I'm going to embarrass her and make her look bad at her own wedding, which is her big day. So for something outside of himself, he said, all right, I'm going to go try to get some lessons, even though I know it's hopeless. It's not going to help. But at least for her, I'll do this. So he came in with all of these misgivings about him not being able to dance. And by the end of the very first lesson, his entire demeanor changed, because he couldn't see a way out of this. He was in this cage, in this box. It's impossible. You can't move. You can't dance. You can't hear rhythm. And by the end of that first lesson, I opened his eye, helped him see, wow, no. There are so many possibilities. You might not be able to dance like Michael Jackson, but you're going to be able to make it around the floor with your daughter and be proud of it. And he could see that. And after every single lesson, that smile grew. And by the end, he flew out to meet his daughter. They hadn't even danced together. And yeah, they hadn't danced. I just sent them some videos of the stuff so she'd have an idea. And he led her around that floor. And he was so confident and so proud. Even to this day, he says, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna learn how to do it with my wife. I never thought I would be a dancer. So it's just, don't shut yourself off. Like you mentioned this earlier, the limiting beliefs that we feed ourselves, because that will stop you. If this man had never had at least a little glimmer of hope, he wouldn't have come in. And now he has this ability to do something, and his confidence has changed. His relationship with his wife is going to change because of it. So just little stories like that. You don't shut off your potential.
That's a big story. Yeah. You
Yeah.
see it often. I think he came in probably with a fear goal. His fear was he didn't want to embarrass his daughter.
Yeah.
And the thing with that, like it can move you to action, right? Fear will move you to action, but it's not a sustainable action.
Right.
And what I think you did as a dance coach in that situation was transition it from fear to desire, because what's he wanting now? He didn't say, well, I don't want to embarrass my wife. He's like, I desire to be able to do this with my wife. And you did that. My question is, like, when he came in like that, and this is just so relatable because I think so many women face this with their husbands. They don't want to do something like that for a lot of reasons. When he came in with all his reasons and background, not wanting to, did your hope for him waver? Or did he come in and you had hope? Didn't matter what he said, you believed he'll get this.
I believe he'll get this because I have experience. I've experience with all types. It might be harder for some, but I know that everybody can learn to do something better than what they're already doing. They can grow from the spot that they're in. And I'm 100% a believer. I've never given anyone's money back to this day.
Yep. Good. I like what you said. It can be harder for some. That's acknowledging reality.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can acknowledge reality, our brains can take a step in the right direction. So instead of saying, I can't, or say, it'll be hard, but I'm going to try, right? That is when we talk about hope requiring goals and they're short term. That's a really short term goal. Is just I'm going to replace can't or won't with it's hard, but I'll try.
Yeah.
It's those baby steps. I talk with couples all the time about baby steps, and you're talking steps all the time. And I don't want the audience to think that you just coach dance, right? You've done that for years, but you work with couples and take the principles of dance and apply them to relationship,
Right.
and leverage the power of dance and closeness and all of that to improve their relationship and communication and all of that. So just for the audience to know, you're not strictly a dance instructor. You help couples and help marriages and relationships and stuff. But as like you said, you've got experience, and so you never doubt a situation. And I am the same way with couples. It doesn't matter what I hear. Now, like you said, we may uncover situations where divorce is the right thing to do, but that person can still have hope that there is that satisfying, enjoyable relationship out there for them.
Yeah. So important.
So they're not losing hope. But in this situation, the wiser thing to do was, to separate in some form like that.
Yeah.
I want to wrap this up, and what I just said something about, sometimes it's wise. And I was thinking of King Solomon. I'm going to take you to Sunday school for a second. King Solomon, the Bible was known or is known as the wisest man to have ever lived. And something that he said, I'll mention this with couples, and I'll say, finish this for me. Hope deferred makes the heart what?
Sick.
Sick. Everybody gets that. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. And it's like, yep, that's me. That's where I am. Sick, stressed, not much life. And then I say, what's the second half of what he said? Not a single person has ever, they're like, oh, there's a second half? Yeah, there's a second half. Hope deferred does make the heart sick. And why we want to know that is because, like, when we're sick, don't continue to spiral down, but recognize that the issue is that hope's been deferred. I'm not walking in hope, living in the hope. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. Vitality, fullness of life. I think I'm like, oh. And so, we're talking today about what's the three ingredients of hope. And the first one is a goal that is desirable. Yeah. I desire this. And when I pursue that, which requires hope, and I pursue that desirable goal and find it, it's tree of life, it's vitality, it's fullness of life. So when our heart is sick, when our core is depressed, anxious, stuck, all of that, make one of the first things you consider, are there hopes that I've deferred? Are there hopes that I've set aside? Are there hopes that I've talked myself out of, that I've convinced myself just aren't possible? You were telling me before we went on about something from the 1900s where someone kind of got in that place, right? Why don't you share that?
Yes, the patent office. Yeah. So in the early 1900s, the person who ran the patent office shut it down for a while because they said everything that's been invented has already been invented. So we don't need to patent anything else. It's all out there. Well, very clearly that's not the case, because look at how our technology and everything inventions have bloomed since then. Could you imagine being stuck in the early 1900s? If they had that limiting belief, nothing else can be created, we've done it all. So I like that idea of not shutting down your own patent office. Or even something we haven't talked about, we're talking about personal, don't shut down the patent office on your partner. They'll
Hmm.
say they have no more ability. There's no capacity in my husband or my wife to change. This is the way it is. Maybe you think that you have the capacity to change, but you don't. And what you're really doing is not giving them that opportunity, and you're not believing in them, and you're shutting their patent office down.
And the spouse feels that, whether you say it or not, right? The vibe is there that you're not believed in.
Right.
And when you experience that, it's like, why even try? And it's that self-fulfilling prophecy for the relationship, and it just crumbles. And that's why it's you and I both really value working with couples together, is because we get to hear those conversations in real time and them saying these things and seeing the expression on the spouse's face. Oh, they don't believe in me. They don't think I can change, or they're remembering one conversation that went horrible and thinking that's how it's going to be. And you and I can guide them and say, hey, let's go back and look at that and maybe do it differently, try it differently, and inject and instill some hope into their situation. So yeah, don't shut down the patent office. There's more ideas, there's more possibilities, there's more attainable good goals out there
Mm-hmm.
for us. And if you need help, feel free to reach out to myself or Ashley. Ashley, how do people get a hold of you if they want to talk with you about their situation?
If you want to talk with me, reach out on my social media. I am at AM Dance Connection on Facebook, Instagram. You can find me on my website as well, at Ashley Mayer Dance Connection, AM Dance Connection. I do dance-based relationship coaching, and it's a very physical, more active way of approaching a healthy relationship and healthy habits. So please reach out. I'm happy to help. I'd love to talk to people. I'll jump on a free 30-minute call with you. We'll get started.
Yeah, I'm so excited about what you're doing, because I just know it's so powerful. I remember doing a couple different times, both with my family and then in a work situation, doing a ropes course.
Oh, wow.
And you're holding on, you're climbing over people who are holding on to a rope to get to the top, and you're swinging, and you're grabbing them and touching them like for dear life. And just the bond that created. We didn't talk about the relationship, we
Yeah.
didn't talk about the problems or anything. We just, like you said, bypassed it and
Yeah.
got to a really good starting point through that physical stuff. And you bring all that into what you do. That's so great. If people want to talk to me, they can just go to my website, keith.coach, and schedule a 30-minute free consultation there. And we can come up with strategies. We can look at and talk about what are some of those short-term, attainable, desirable goals that you can start pursuing. We just love to help people with that.
Mm-hmm. And you just like my movement, you have a lot of the same stuff in your practice that you work with couples too, which is this way of moving our being and changing those thoughts and that chemistry, which is why we're so passionate about it. Yeah, so we're excited to be able to help people find hope.
Yes.
There is hope. Your situation is not fixed. You've got to believe us on this one.
Yep. Believe us. All right. It's been a lot of fun chatting with you today, Ashley.
You as well, Keith.
And
Do it again.
yeah, let's do it again in a week.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks.